Hello and good morning. Good Monday morning on this Beltane, May the 1st, 2023. Can you believe it? We're 5 months into 2023 already. Unbelievable. As you can see, I'm still in my temporary location. I ran into a big problem with my move. Thank you, Mercury retrograde. Thank you, solar storms. Thank you, universe, for trying to slow me down. And what actually happened was now I'm even more frantic. How's everybody else's weeks going? Okay. So for those of you who are new here, a very warm welcome. For those of you who are returning, thank you so much for continuing to support my channel. Please give me a like and subscribe to help me build up the following. All right. For those of you who are new here, let me just quickly describe how the weekly readings work. So every Monday I jump on and I make a quick video that has 3 readings in it. The way that you select which reading is correct for you is that I will ask you to go into a very, very light meditative state. And from that light meditative state, I ask you to intuitively select one of 3 rocks, gems, or trinkets. And these rocks, gems, or trinkets have already been intuitively, by me, assigned to a particular deck for the week. So without any further ado, let's start the meditation and let's move things along. I mean, it's springtime. We want to keep moving things along and things are starting to grow and things are starting to move. So yeah. Okay. I'd like you to just get comfortable. Now, this is not a full meditation. This is a light 2 or 3 minute meditation. So take a couple of deep breaths. Begin by inhaling, and as you inhale, pay really, really close attention to the breath entering and how the breath cools the nostrils and causes your chest to rise. And other physiological changes begin to happen in your body. Hold the breath at the top for just a second or 2. And when you exhale, relax. Many people, when they do this type of exercise, choose to exhale with a sigh. So yet again, begin your inhale. Nice deep inhale. All the way in. And again, pay attention to the changes that happen within your body as you're inhaling. And when you're ready, exhale with a sigh and relax. And one more time, take a really deep breath. Deep, deep, deep. As deep as you can. Make sure that not only do your lungs rise, but your stomach lifts up, fills up with air. Hold this up at the top. When you're ready, exhale and relax. Now, if you have had your eyes closed, please open your eyes, and I'm going to present this week's rocks, gems, or trinkets. The first one is an abalone shell. It has not yet been used for any kind of smudge. Beautiful shell here. It's bigger than most of the rocks, gems, or trinkets I would normally use. So if you are attracted to this shell, I'll be pulling cards for you from deck number 1 this week. We have a Cornelian pendant. So if you are attracted, it's actually a pendulum. Some people call them pendulums, some people call them pendants. But if you are attracted to this Cornelian pendant or pendulum, I'll be pulling cards for you from deck number 2. And finally, we have a piece of coral. Now, some of you will recognize the coral from last week. Again, I'm having trouble getting it to focus. Focus, maybe? No. Okay. Anyway, it's a lovely little piece of coral. No, I did not pull this from the ocean. This was a piece of coral that had washed up on the beach. So it was already dead and bleached before I picked it up. So if you are attracted to the piece of coral, I will be pulling cards for you from deck number 3. All right, let's get started. For those of you that selected this shell that I will eventually use for smudge, burning sage, tobacco, cedar, and various other herbs, lavender as well. So if you are attracted to this, I'll be pulling cards for you from the Messages from the Spirits of Nature Oracle cards by Stephen D. Farmer. All right. So let's have a look at the dominant energies influencing you this week. Those of you who selected the shell. My son just walked in and completely distracted me while I was shuffling the deck. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear the deck one more time. Yeah, you know what? Not professional quality. What you see is what you get when you come to my channel. And yeah, there are distractions. All right. Dominant energies influencing those who selected the shell for this week, the week of May the 1st, 2023. Nope, we're still not getting a card out. I do work with cards that flip dominantly as opposed to working with cards that I physically pull, but I might be pulling cards this week. This deck does not want to flip this week. Okay. All right, so this will be the last time. There is a card. Where is it? There's a card that's poking out. Which card is it? It's one of these two cards. It might even be both. So which card is it going to be? It's actually going to be both cards. All right. Ooh, so for those of you that selected the shell this week, you have the apple tree, which is the card that represents abundance. This is a beautiful, beautiful card for you guys to end up with for Beltane, also known as May the 1st, 2023. This is a card indicating that the seeds that you have planted recently, or the seeds that you planted over the winter, are actually coming to fruition, and you're going to begin to experience some of that abundance. Now, abundance doesn't necessarily always mean financial abundance. Abundance can also mean being grateful for the people that you have in your life, family, friends, romantic partners, mentors, any of those people represent abundance in your life. Okay. So this is a card also of new beginnings. Speaking of new beginnings, the other card that you have that came up to influence you and your energies this week is the Jasmine card, which is a card of sensuality. Again, an amazing card for spring, for Beltane. And I've mentioned Beltane a couple of times now in this video. Beltane marks the halfway point between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. So that's why we celebrate it. It's also known as May Day. So yeah, just beautiful, beautiful energies coming up for you for this, the first week of May. Sensuality is not necessarily about sexuality. It's about feeling good about ourselves and really, really getting in touch with our bodies and feeling in touch with our bodies and feeling good about our bodies. Now, for many, many people, that means feeling sexy, Get out there, exercise, get your beach body ready. You know, any of those things can come up for you this week. But yeah, this is a card of definitely pay really close attention to how you're feeling this week. Get in touch with those good emotions, the emotions of love, the emotions of romance, the emotions of really, really embracing feeling good about yourself. Okay. And again, like I said, abundance. Now, for some of you, this abundance is going to represent financial abundance, some kind of windfall coming in for you this week. But for others, it's about practicing gratitude in order to bring more abundance into your life. So if you're finding that you're living in that place of lack, this week, the week of May the 1st, those of you that selected this shell, by all means, begin to practice gratitude, and you would be absolutely amazed at the abundance that comes into your life when you recognize and give thanks for what you already have. And again, sensuality. Imagine the scent of jasmine flowers, especially this week, with it being the first week of May. Beautiful, beautiful energies for you. Let's have a look at your shadow this week. And your shadow this week is the sun. And the sun represents faith, having faith in what's coming up for you. So, like I said, for some of you, you are practicing this place of lack. You're coming from a place of lack. You're worried about abundance. You're worried about tomorrow. When you're coming from that place, you're manifesting more of that lack. And so you don't have faith that what I just said a moment ago, you don't have faith. You don't believe that if you practice gratitude without the expectation of something in return, that wonderful things will happen. Also, what's coming up for me intuitively for those of you that selected this card this week, watch for your own, the way that the sun affects you this week, this being a shadow card for you. So for many of us, when the sun spots are really active, when there's solar storm, when there's solar winds, when there are coronal mass ejections, CMEs coming at the earth, it can affect us. Just as an example, I get headaches when there's a coronal mass ejection or when there's a solar storm. So yeah, pay attention to how you are feeling. We already have a card calling in how you're feeling this week. And now you have a second card that's indicating that elements outside of yourself, specifically the sun, may be affecting how you feel, including your belief in your ability to be able to manifest. All right. So thank you very much for joining me this week. I hope that you'll join me again next week. I hope that you have a beautiful first week of May, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Let's move on to those who selected this Cornelian pendant or pendulum, whichever way you want to refer to it. I will be pulling cards for you this week from the traditional tarot. I'm going to be using my old cheater deck that's got this reflection on it, so it doesn't focus particularly well, but I was called to assign this little gem to this deck this morning. All right, dominant energies for the week of May the 1st for those who selected the Cornelian pendant. Dominant energies, what's influencing those out there? Right, let's go through the deck one more time. There's one card. Is there anything else? Anything else? Looks like you guys might have some work. That card flipped up. It's the 7 of Wands. This is a card of facing your challenges this week. See if there's anything else. Do we need a clarifying card? Whoops. Yep. All right. Oh, it looks like another Wands. Yep. So for those of you that selected this Cornelian pendulum, The first card that you have out is the Seven of Wands, and this is a card of getting to work so that you can overcome the challenges that you have been experiencing in your life. It is all about overcoming obstacles. Okay, you can notice on here, there are 7 wands represented, but the character on the card is getting to work. If you did have a yes or no question this week, you actually have a duality going on, because the second card that you have that came out here is the 10 of Wands. And again, this is a card of hard work, feeling pressure, feeling like you're overburdened, feeling like you've got too much going on, too many, what's the word? Like you've got too many irons in the fire, so to speak. You know, the old blacksmiths, if they got too many irons in the fire, they couldn't get to them in time, they would actually destroy the metal and make it more brittle. That's okay. My son wants to be a blacksmith, so I'm learning all about metals myself. But yeah, the 10 of Wands is an overall card of hard work. And again, if you look at the character on this card, you'll notice that he's having to carry all 10 of his wands, and it almost looks like he's having to push them up a hill. This is a card of you got to put in the work in order to get the benefits out. So it looks like those of you that selected this Cornelian pendant, that you've got work ahead of you this week. Now, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but you've got this card, if you had a yes or no question, has a yes, and this card has a no, which means that you're kind of caught at odds right now, and you're going back and forth. This is telling me that for those of you that selected this pendant this week, many of you have a decision to make, and it's a rather weighty decision or a big decision that's coming up for you. And you're going back and forth. And one of the things that's coming up for me, I can see it in my mind's eye, is when we have big decisions to make, we're often told, okay, put a big T on a piece of paper and you put a column for pros and a column for cons, and you make your list and you make your decision based on that list. I can see that coming up. I can definitely see that some of you are caught in this, oh, I should go do, no, I shouldn't. Oh, I'm going to go. No, I'm not. And I can see this going back and forth for many of you right now. And what these 2 cards are telling me for you this week is that there's work, more legwork that you need to put in order to be able to get to that point that you can make the decision. And you're going to make your decision based on very, very sound knowledge. Like you're going to come from a place of, okay, I've looked at both sides of the coin, both sides of the situation, and I'm prepared now to make the decision. I am feeling that you will be in that good place to make the decision from a well-informed place by the end of the week. But definitely these 2 cards are indicating that the initial outset of the week, there's work for you to do, research for you to do, dig deep into what decision, you know, what the potential outcome is based on both sides of the decision that you have to make. Now, oh my goodness, another wands on the bottom of the deck. Here you have the Queen of Wands on the bottom of the deck. So yeah, those of you that selected this Cornelian pendant or pendulum, you guys really, really have your work cut out for you. The wands are all about work. They're all about fire. They're all about taking action. So the Queen of Wands coming up in your shadow position this week really is saying that you've got this you need to take control of your affairs. And because you've got this yes and this no, because you've got this waffling back and forth going on, I'm really picking up on this waffling going back and forth with this 7 and 10 of Wands. Because you've got this waffling going back and forth, the Queen coming up in the shadow position Okay, so normally the queen coming up would be somebody in a position of authority that is able to make really, really good decisions, although with a feminine side of things, but like by putting in that softer hue to things when they're making a decision. And what I'm picking up for you is that with this coming up in the shadow position, you've got this waffling going back and forth. You're not acting with authority this week, which is really what these two cards are asking you to do. They're asking you explore both sides of the situation and then put in the work necessary, including making a list of pros and cons and making that decision. There is a card here about feeling overwhelmed and overburdened. When we have a decision to make, we can feel overwhelmed and overburdened. But once we actually sit down and we look at both sides of the coin, it's much easier for us to make that decision because we can see clearly. And this card is indicating that you haven't yet done that side of it. So you're continuing with this waffling. So I'm going to leave it off there in order to leave this off on a positive note. What I am picking up for many of you is that at the beginning of the week, you're going to have this kind of waffling back and forth. You're going to have this sense of overwhelm. You're going to be going, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then by the end of the week, you will have done the work necessary in order to be able to make the decision from a very well-informed place. And once you get to that place, beautiful things are going to come from that decision. So thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope you'll join me again next week. Those of you that selected this little piece of coral, thank you for joining me. I'm going to be pulling cards for you from the Fairy Tarot. Let's get started. Just going to clear the deck one more time. All right. Dominant energies influencing those who selected the coral this week, the first week of May. Got 3 cards that came out all together. All right. Is there anything else? Anything else, fairies? Nope, there's one more. And it's trying to get onto the floor. Is that one coming out too? Might be. Not sure. You know what? I'm getting told that's your shadow card. I'm going to just stick that one right on the bottom. Okay. I'm still leaning over here trying to prevent your last card from falling. Okay. Interesting. Okay. So the first card that you have that's come out here is the 8 of Spring, also known as the 8 of Wands. Interesting. You have the 8 of Wands as well as the King of Wands or King of Spring here. Interestingly, you guys may want to go and watch the reading for the Cornelian pendant or pendulum. The reason being is they had 3 Wands cards come out. You've got 2 Wands cards. So what this is telling me, Wands are all about action. They're about fire. They're about taking steps forward. You have the 8 of Wands here. The 8 of Wands is about having too many irons in the fire. It's about having it's about multitasking, and it's about being able to complete several tasks either at the same time or consecutively very, very quickly, because this is a fire card represented by the element of fire here. I recognize that I've got a huge reflection because the sun has moved since I started recording, but anyway, there's the 8 of Wands. And you'll notice on this card, you've got the fairy, and she's got all sorts of little balls up in the air that she's attempting to juggle. So this is telling me that this week, the week of May 1st, for some of you, you're going to be juggling a lot of things. You've got the King of Spring coming in. This is a card of leadership. This is a card indicating, and again, I'm trying to get this to come into focus without the reflection from the sun. This is a card of being wise. This is a card of using some authority in decisions that you need to make this week. You've got the 9 of Autumn, also known as the 9 of Pentacles. This is a card of reward yourself. specifically, if you are self-employed, make sure that you are paying yourself properly and rewarding yourself properly. This may also mean booking a vacation for yourself, taking the time off that you deserve after having worked really, really hard through the winter and into the spring. And you have the Five of Summer. Five of Summer is also the equivalent to the Five of Cups. Now, this is a card of duality almost. Whenever the fives appear in the tarot, it's at that point where we've made a decision, we begin moving forward, and once we begin moving forward, all of a sudden we go, oh gee, did I make the right decision? It's a card of questioning. Did I make the right decision? So this is a card of trust. It's a card of, I need to make sure that the decisions I've made and the path that I'm walking is the right path for me. What these cards are telling me altogether is that you've got a lot of things going on. You're being called upon to multitask with this Eight of Spring coming up. That's not a bad thing, but you also need to be making decisions from a place of authority this week. Some of the decisions that you're going to need to make are pertaining to money and making sure that you are being properly compensated for the work that you're doing. And if you're not being properly compensated, you've got a decision that you need to make. That's essentially what it comes down to. Let's have a look at your shadow. Yeah, your shadow is the Karma card. It is the Six of Autumn, also known as the Six of Pentacles. And this is a card of the good that you put out into the world comes back to you. And again, the sun has come out from underneath its cloud and is giving me a reflection again. So this is a card of making sure that the karma that you're putting out into the world is good karma. And given that this is representing, you've got a decision to make this week, specifically related to basically whether you're being compensated sufficiently or not for the work that you're putting in. This coming up in your shadow position is a card of really, really questioning, am I doing the right thing? Is the right amount of money going to be coming in for the outflow of money that I have in my life? These are questions that only you can answer, but they need to be answered this week. And the other thing that I do want to point out with the wands coming up, both the King of Wands as well as the Eight of Wands, these are cards of work. So this means that although you have some financial abundance represented here with both the 6 and the 9 of Autumn coming in, you also have to be putting in work and making decisions in order for you to manifest the abundance that you want coming in. All right, I'm going to leave that off. Thank you so much for joining me here this week. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope that you'll join me again next week. Have a beautiful first week of May, everyone.